Let's play pretend.
I'm okay.
Alright, and we are live. Wow. Welcome back, anyone who's watching, either currently while we're live or in the future, to Guydeas, episode 2. Yeah. This time we're live where we meant to be live the first time, and that's on YouTube.
Are we sure?
Yeah,
just on
we're
the
live.
day.
No, we're live. And this time I didn't mess up anything when we started, actually. Wow. So, learned a lot last time. Today, we are going to talk about space. Woo! Specifically, anyone who is on YouTube or the internet or not living under a rock probably knows that SpaceX and NASA did like a joint collab today, and they launched people into space for the first time in a long time. Mm-hmm. And it went pretty well. It looked pretty cool. So we'll start off kind of talking about that. Then we'll talk about space in general, and then of course our theology discussion will also center around space.
Yes. And to calm everyone's mind, we won't just be talking about space in this podcast, because I know we talked about Star Wars quite a bit, so it's not going to be like directed at that. This just happens to be something that's coming up right now. So
we're going to talk about Star Wars again.
We just love Star Wars. Honestly, is there anything else in pop culture besides Star Wars?
No.
Okay. No. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Oh, you know what? I did mess something up, but you guys keep talking. No, it's just one camera. It's okay. It's okay. I messed up.
So I watched the live stream. Did you guys watch it?
I did not.
Okay. It was kind of nerve-wracking.
I wasn't
You're
alive
launching
for.
people into space.
Well, yeah, you're launching people into space. It had to be at this exact time. It had to be like perfect for them.
Right.
And just I grew well. You know, we all grew up with the Challenger. I think it was right
before our time a little.
Well,
Steven,
it
you're
happened
older.
right. Huh?
You're older than I am.
Oh yeah.
You and I are like the same.
Well, it
age.
happened right before
Yeah,
we were
right before
born,
we-
but we
yeah.
got to
We heard
live that.
Yeah.
Just because it was teachers
Sure.
Yeah.
and
In the aftermath.
in the aftermath, and so
Yeah.
it was just kind
Fixed.
of watching of it.
Yeah.
Watching it was kind of just. It was cool, but kind of nerve wracking because you're like, just praying everything goes right.
There was that one thing. In like 2003, 2004, they like sent something up there, and it was like a huge disaster. So I guess I should have known the details.
We should have done some
I
research
should have done a
before
little
we
research into that
got
one.
on this
Yeah.
live stream. But no, but it was cool to watch. But it was nerve wracking because it was supposed to happen, I believe, yesterday. But they missed the
Wednesday.
or
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay, but the weather just ended up
It's bad weather.
turning on them,
Right.
and they had to cancel it. So it was
It's probably a
just
good call.
yeah. No, I mean everything has to be perfect for these things, and
Oh yeah.
so that
So
was,
they're going up to the International Space Station.
yeah. So they from when I quit watching, they still had 19 hours till they
Yeah.
got there.
Oh, okay.
But it was really cool.
Right.
They were doing manual flight tests up there in this new shuttle because they invented like a new type of space shuttle. Like that was the thing that really struck me about it is if you think about all the old ones that we used to see, there's like a little tiny space shuttle that looks like an airplane on top of this giant tank. And it's like the ugliest, grossest looking tank ever. This thing was literally just like a long stick, and the space shuttle was just on the top of it.
That had a really cool name too, right?
Yeah.
Dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Something really.
Right.
Dragon makes everything cool.
Yeah.
Dragon.
Right. Cool.
There's a dragon on our.
There's
There's a dragon.
It's beautiful. It's also got some stars and stuff. It's called Dark Star, so yeah.
Oh, and our drink of
Pretty,
the night was a Moscow Mule.
Oh, we forgot
Twas.
to do our drink of the night
Twas.
thing, guys.
What's that?
And we took so long that we
basically
mostly
done.
drank our Moscow Mules and went to beer.
All right, well, we should cheers.
I am not cheers in an empty glass, so.
Wow. I've got some left.
I got a little bit left. so-
Cheers.
Ideas.
Yeah, next time we'll try to be set up before, like we were the first time, but you know, try to improve always on our stuff.
So what is, I guess, really the significance of SpaceX and NASA getting together and doing this launch?
Well, to me, what's cool is it's like it's like the first step to something new for what was once, I don't know, like
Well,
I'm
it's the
not
first
engineer.
time like a private company has been able to send
Well,
people
that's
to space. So
that's
that's
the
pretty cool.
thing is, it's cool that a private company came in and actually made it happen.
Right.
But then they didn't just go with the old. They went and tried to make it better.
Mhm.
And that's why we have they have I don't know much about their rocket, but the parts that fell off, they actually came and landed.
That was
Did,
sick.
Redocking.
Yeah,
So
because
instead
like
of
normally
falling
they
into
just
the
drop
ocean,
it into the ocean and
Yeah.
then they're like, cool, screw the environment, just drop it in the ocean and leave it there, and then divers can mess with it much later. Instead of doing that, they legitimately, like this thing flies itself and docks to a specific point in the ocean.
That's awesome.
And they can reuse it, I'm pretty sure. So that's huge because they've never had as efficient or as sophisticated of a rocket mechanism. It's also the first new type of shuttle that can dock with the International Space Station that's been in use for a long time. Because everyone's been like contracting out space travel through Russia. Like NASA hasn't sent people to space. So when we send American people to the International Station, we pay Russia a butt ton of money. I think Gina and I were talking about this. I think she said it's like $50 million a seat to get someone to the space station.
Well, I heard it was going to cost like 30 to 50 million
Right.
per astronaut.
Right, whereas with this, it's like $1 million a seat.
Yeah.
So that's a lot better.
Also, does this open up the door for like commercial traveling eventually?
Maybe.
To
I think that's
space?
the idea.
Is that the idea?
I think that's the idea, but it's not
Bronson.
practical yet.
Right.
What's his name?
The
Virgin Mobile.
Australian guy?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's what he's trying to do.
Richard
Richard Branson.
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 Yeah.
Branson. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what he
I like
wants to
him.
do.
He
I
loves
remember-
us, probably.
I remember people
Why?
talking about like the space elevator for a time. Yeah, did you ever hear about that?
That's a crazy idea,
Yeah,
though.
Yeah, I mean, like it's pretty out there, but it'd be pretty neat. Like it was just meant to be like we figured out this way to organize carbon so that it was like way stronger than like this cylindrical thing. So it didn't end up, like the plan for it, the cable wouldn't have to be very long. It was just something where, you know, basically a capsule would go out into space and you'd see like, you know, the Earth from orbit. So it sounds like a really neat idea, but I never heard much after it. I just kind of heard the theories about it. It was like, oh, okay, that'd be cool. I'll never do that because I'm always going to be poor, but...
Well, and that would be hard specifically because think about like something on the ground with this giant elevator that breaks the orbit, flailing around as the Earth spins at thousands and thousands of miles an hour. And we're reaching a point where there's so much debris in space that it's actually going to be problematic in like the next 20 years. And if it gets too overcrowded, one collision could cause 40 years worth of catastrophic explosions in our atmosphere, and there'd be no satellites. So like we're already kind of approaching that level of stuff. So like space is going to be really important, I think, in the next like 50 years.
Wait, how are we approaching that level of stuff? Like,
well, because
we've been throwing trash in the sky.
Right. So okay. So like it's exactly like we talked about space launches. You go up there, and all those parts fall off, and they burn in the atmosphere, and debris gets caught. So there's thousands of little tiny pieces that are like this big. But something this big, when it's flying around the atmosphere, when it hits something, that probably just made the mic click. When it hits something, it does a little tiny fleck that wouldn't hurt you, does like 500 pounds worth of force and damage.
Sure.
And so then there's bigger,
so
there's bigger chunks of stuff. And so you can actually approach a level where right now everything has found its own orbit, and if it knocks something, it knocks a couple things, and then they find their own path again, or they burn up. But you can approach potentially a place where it's so overcrowded that if one thing accidentally hits another thing, everything's going to collide, including all those satellites that are stuck in that orbit. So they would all just explode.
Okay.
And you wouldn't be able to do that again until it all burned up.
Oof.
Yeah.
See, when you said garbage in space, it made me think about Futurama.
That's why I made that joke.
We need an object of exactly the same mass and density to be able to deflect the big ball of garbage.
Yep. Will you put my finished meal next to yours?
Yes, sir. See, the best thing about that episode, though, to me, is the sound that Fry makes when he smells it. Like, for a long time, well, like in middle school or high school, I actually recorded that sound, and it was my ringtone. It's like gold. Yeah. Shows the level of maturity I've always been, a part of.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I love
Is there a way
that
we
show.
can like collect all this like garbage, I guess? Space
I don't know.
garbage?
I read this article yesterday. It's pretty interesting about that problem. But yeah, so there's people. Well, in the comments, there's a bunch of crazy ideas. One person was like, "Good, they can finally stop tracking my location. I can have my privacy back." And I was like,
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing about satellites.
Right,
they
right.
care about what you are doing.
But I mean, think about like losing GPS data.
I care.
Think about losing GPS data. That would be catastrophic for any sort of wilderness conservation or search and rescue.
Yeah, how would we find the groceries?
Yeah. Google Maps just down. But they've done, like, apparently some people have this idea that they're inventing, like, satellite recollection. Like, I guess space drones would be a way to understand what it would do.
Space Force.
That's kind of what I said.
Yes!
It sounds like a task for Space Force.
They're
But-
just garbage men.
Right.
Space.
But yeah, so they're wanting to find a way with like debunked satellites that are just kind of floating. Because that's what, like a satellite dies and we just like, oh, okay, just leave it up there. You know, like, you want to collect that satellite at thousands of miles an hour? No, like just leave it there. So they're inventing ways to theoretically go kind of grab those and like take them back down. And that would be a big solution. And then, yeah, some people, and I don't know if this is even practical, but it was just like a spitballed, like, I don't know, someone 20 years from now figured this out idea of like magnetizing something that could draw some of the stuff. The problem is you're drawing in things that are going to destroy
I was
whatever it
thinking,
is you
like,
have.
velocity's still really high, so that seems like there's a lot of intelligent science that would need to go behind something.
Right, well, and then the other, then in the comments are my favorite for this because they were just ridiculous. Someone's like, oh, you know what they need to do? They just need to invent one of them force fields and put it around our whole planet and push it out, and it'll push all that stuff into deep space. And I was like, okay, if we invent a force field, the last thing we're going to think about using it for is that. You know, at least the first thing is going to be like, put one over Washington, D.C.
Pretty
you
much,
know?
yeah.
So, I don't know. But yeah, it's like one of those like things of space ethics that's weird to ponder.
Space
ethics.
That's such a strange concept.
Right.
I never thought about that.
Well, what is right and wrong in terms of space exploration? You
There
know?
are no rules.
Well, no, it's like the Wild West. Like it literally is. If you look at the international space treaties, so nations can't claim planets or land, but corporations can. There's no rules against that.
Really?
So yeah, like theoretically,
Jeff Bezos better get on it.
yeah, theoretically, as far as I understand,
Claiming
Amazon and
Amazon.
Elon Musk could go like claim land on Mars. The other thing is that they said, and I'm getting all this from Gina because she knows she's doing a research for a presentation she's doing on like space treaties, and it's basically like the gold rush of the future. You know, like California gold rush. Like go out there, just stick a thing in the ground. It's your land, and shoot whoever comes on it, and steal the gold, and go into town and go crazy. And it's just space is kind of that way. Like if you could go mine Mars, everything you can take from there is yours, and you can sell it, and you can profit off of it.
Wow.
Right now, that's the
Sounds
because
awesome. Sounds like I need
Right.
Mars.
right.
So like, if they ever did like commercial space traveling, would you guys? That's what you guys would sign up for?
Depends on how much it costs.
Well, okay, at a reasonable. Yeah. I mean,
Say you
but-
can say it's reasonable, or that somehow you can particularly afford it.
No.
No. Why?
Well, if I'm having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and I can't afford it, there are better things that I can do with that money.
Okay, forget the money. You say money's not.
It's free, Ryan. It's
You
free.
want-
It's
to go to
completely free.
space.
Sure.
Okay.
Why not? Like, it'd be cool.
You don't.
No.
What?
I don't like flying in general, so
I was thinking about that, dude.
I would have
feel like
such a tough time with takeoff and.
I know.
landing.
Like you think the takeoff of a plane is kind of a gut punch. Imagine a rocket ship. Like you're just sitting there completely dead still, and then thousands of miles of an hour of force just.
I love takeoff and landing in a plane, but it's the turbulence. Like I just, for some reason, I just suck on planes. I become a little girl, and I can only imagine just going to this for what 3 minutes straight. Just lose my mind.
I remember listening to a guy talk about why he retired early. Like he was going to do that as he was going to be an astronaut. That's what he cared about. And then he started to like hear people's ideas about it, and he's like, oh my god. So I'm basically in this tin can, this aluminum can, where most of the weight is given to something highly flammable, and there is like basically nothing to protect me from the vacuum of space and this incredibly combustible material. Sounds like the most dangerous thing I could do. That's okay. I'm gonna do something else with my life.
See, I think I'm down. Like, I think so I would like to be in space for a little bit, and it'd be cool to be there for like 3 days, and like eat some space food. Have to go to the bathroom in space because you have to. Like, it's just think about it. You have to find a new way to pee because there's no gravity.
It's like peeing when you're stuck in a truck for a long time on the road.
Right. No, you
to
literally
find
have
a
to
new
use
way
a
to do
funnel.
it.
They use a funnel. And then like
Yeah,
eating is completely different. Ooh, no,
Ooh,
no,
bro,
not doing that.
never
Yeah.
worth it.
You've never been to the hospital.
I read too. One of the things that they have a problem with like commercializing space travel or like sending humans to new settlements is you can't bring a baby on a space shuttle.
What?
Well,
Perfect. They're so annoying.
But you can't because what happens in space is your heart actually gets really weak and your muscles start to atrophy. So astronauts have to work out for like 2.5 hours a day to stay healthy. And a baby can't exercise and their hearts are already weak, so they think they would just die. And so then here's the other problem. If it takes you, say you're like, okay, Mars takes 5 years. What happens when we want to go to Europa and it takes 75 years? And you have to procreate to get there. You have to somehow find a way to make a child thrive in space and get to a new settlement without dying.
That's an
And
interesting
more
question.
interesting than that, you actually have to find a new way to have sex because you don't have gravity and you can't like. So I was reading an article. You literally it's not really that practical to try and have sex in space, and so they have to think through that.
It's pretty practical. You don't have to move that much.
No, but like the problem is you can't generate. There's no gravity. There's no.
Well, I'm saying,
There's nothing
I'm
pulling on
thinking
you.
for most guys they'll be fine. It's the girls who are going to be a little disappointed.
Doesn't take much. I mean, yeah, all right.
There's an app for that.
That's bad.
Well, okay,
That's
then you'd have to
I
you'd
thought
have to
they could,
generate
like,
gravity somehow
can't just-
for it.
generate okay, like back.
Yeah, in the
like
movie.
let's say we're
Wait, movies aren't real?
like
Keep going.
we're colonizing on Mars or whatever. We can't figure out a way to like get the gravity.
Come
at
on,
the
there's
right
got to
level.
be a much simpler solution. Talk about like a set of harnesses and elastic bands.
That was the thought of the article I read.
Ha
It was like an elastic suit. Oh, she's taking my car.
Okay.
Bye.
Also, I've been listening.
You're listening?
Yep.
Do you want to come
Hey.
say hi to the podcast?
No
No,
girls
it's
allowed.
too hard to get in here. Go back to those elastic bands.
So a sex swing in space.
No, so that was the funny thing. So again, when I was reading these articles, one of the things I thought was important is to see the reaction of someone, like me that knows nothing about this crap. And someone's comment says, the elastic suits and swings thing, that's normal for me.
They could just
And I was like, oh my god.
How about sperm banks? They could just have that in space.
Right, but now how do you, like when you give birth to a baby, how do you make sure space doesn't kill it?
First, you gotta build a
Right.
What about like chambers or like some sort of protection unit? Like we have things like that for infants who are struggling anyway.
Yeah, that's probably the best.
Well, because the problem
Idea.
is if you have a kid while you're going, that's where the issue is going to be. If
Right.
it is such
Like
a long
during
trip.
birth or whatever.
Yeah, like
Right.
If,
What's childbirth like in
that
zero
thing's going to
gravity?
shoot
dude?
across the room.
And like
have you ever seen The Miracle of Life? It's not like it's a rocket shooting out of there.
Well, they would be
that little baby. There isn't a doctor with the catcher's mitt like on
That's
the
what I was just picturing.
Well, there would have to be now because all of a sudden there's this force coming into nothing, so that thing's just gonna shoot.
He's just got an umpire mask on.
Yeah.
Steer right.
The umbilical cord's all like. and then
Oh
just,
my
like,
gosh.
whoosh.
Yeah.
It's a highly choreographed event.
It is.
That is a
It has to be.
terrifying thought.
Can we start over?
We have a doctor.
No.
So
This is it.
this is our podcast.
we
Welcome
really
to
started
Guydeas.
A doctor.
We really
and an
started to
umpire
focus
the
in
back.
on like the sex and space thing. I don't think that's the.
It's not where we wanted to go, but it's where it went.
Yeah, Drew. Let this
Oh,
this
man.
evolve. It's
Okay,
okay.
I blame you.
Well, so no, I guess that leads to the question of like. I guess I'll take it in a direction with this.
Okay.
So Elon Musk wants to get to Mars in like 2035.
Okay.
Okay, there's already a bunch of people who want to go and they're applying or whatever. If like say they had an extra seat and they needed to fill it with someone who didn't want, like who wasn't like a sciencey, this one like a common person.
You don't want to go? We're making you go.
Yeah, like one of us. Would you guys go to Mars?
Sure.
You probably can't come back.
Can't ever come back, huh?
I have requirements, but I will not go into those.
Okay, wait, Ryan, no. He said no. Why?
No, I would not. I believe that our lives are for more of a purpose, and I think just curiosity isn't really something worthwhile. I think there's a lot more impact to be had here, so I wouldn't really want to abandon that opportunity just for the sake of selfish curiosity. Just my personal opinion. I'm not condemning anybody who would want to. It's just I feel that I have things that I would rather be doing here.
That's an
Did you
interesting
like
take.
find any purpose up on Mars?
Well, maybe, but like the
Like exploration and human progress and
I mean, all of
the
that's
development
interesting.
of new lands and the cultivation of life.
All of that's interesting, but I've found plenty of opportunity to explore spirituality and the mind here. I mean, like, I don't really feel like I would need to be looking at, space for the rest of my life to do that. And again, like, I want to be interacting with people, and there are 30 people that I would be then interacting with?
Right.
Probably not. Like,
And you would definitely have to make babies with one of them, so hopefully there's a good option there.
We're all men.
But not dang it, Steven. So not to focus on the whole sex and space thing again. People are like, wow, it's aptly titled Guydeas. All right, so Ryan doesn't want to go. There's too much to do on Earth. Andrew, would you go?
I'm kind of like with you. I would want to go check out space, maybe orbit around the Earth for a little while and come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to go.
You wouldn't go to Mars?
No.
Is it like Mars specifically, or is it just the idea of
I
one?
hate Mars. No.
Mars
No,
is
it's just like
Just the idea of not being on Earth ever
I
again.
think I'm like too social. I like to be around people, I like to do things, and I feel like you get up there. At least probably like the first group of people that go, and they're like, I don't know. It just seems like there wouldn't be like anything to do, and you're like kind of just stuck in your little like pod or whatever.
so bored.
It'd probably be cool, but I don't think it'd be a great fit.
Yeah.
If there was a way I could like go to Mars, stay for a couple days, and go back to Earth, yeah, that'd be cool. Stay on like the Motel
Right.
6 on Mars or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, you picked the cheapest one, didn't you?
I think the first one they gave me my mind.
Dude, I don't know. If I'm trusting my entire oxygen intake to a motel, it's not going to be Motel 6. It's going to be a little nicer than that. All right.
Yeah.
Steven, I think you already said no, but
Yeah, no.
why not?
Because I want to come back. I don't want to go stay somewhere. I have a tough time with isolation. And like, if you, let's say it's 30 people. I mean, that's 30 people for the rest of your life. Like, there's no new people.
And you know one of them's an asshole. At
least one. And
Probably
it's probably you. Because you're the only one complaining, why am I here?
Self-love.
So it's
that's what they get for Shanghaiing you to go into space.
Right?
Like,
That's where it's like 30 people, the same 30 people for, like, isolation and no. If you could come back, yes. But because it's like, if I fly somewhere, I always want to go home.
Right. Okay.
The other thing for me, like, too, like, I probably have I don't know that I'd ever be, like, accepted. I got, like, a bunch of health issues, so, I'm guessing there would be a hospital on Mars right away. So.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, the Motel 6 is first.
Yeah. At least get a holiday.
The Motel 6.
But,
I mean, we're talking about corporations being able to claim things in space. It's definitely going to be Motel 6.
We're going to leave the light on. It's Motel 6?
But yeah, so, like, I don't know. I feel like pretty healthy people would probably be the only ones going for a while. And I definitely don't, got a bunch of issues. Got a fake leg, got a heart thing going on, so yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, like, just being in space, I wonder how that might affect your heart, just period, huh?
It's probably true. Probably.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Wait, you have a fake leg?
No.
Oh.
You definitely can't just
Don't
see
worry.
it in the wide angle,
Yep. Got a fake leg.
It's okay.
So yeah, I'm
We still-
guessing it wouldn't work out too well for me in space.
Right. Yeah, that's a good thought.
She's okay.
That's an interesting thing, too, like,
So I never did military.
would it become, like what if, like, that becomes, like, the new segregation, like, all the super athletic, wealthy, healthy people just ditch us to live on Mars?
Well,
I guess I'm going. Just kidding.
Athletic? Well, I guess, yeah, you're a sports person.
Athletic, I wouldn't say healthy.
There's a fine line.
There's a difference. Athletic, yes. Healthy.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, what about you? Did you say?
I don't. So, okay, I have a different answer. I would also not go to Mars. But you guys answered I would not go to Mars. Like, I would go anywhere, period. It's kind of what I was getting from you guys. Like, you wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't go to Mars. But if there was, like, a planet, so, like, say they, like, tomorrow, Elon Musk is like, oh, cool, we launched our shuttle. By the way, I invented the wormhole, and there's a planet that's just like Earth, 10 billion light years away, and we can get there in, like, 2 years travel time through this wormhole, but it's a one-way trip. I would go.
I would do that.
Oh, well,
I
no,
would-
but I have to be
Dude.
married first?
what is it?
Or I guess if there's plenty of...
I mean, it's
Probably
like,
like
Eligible.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess the question is,
The
why not
odds
Mars?
are, I would go on this 2-year trip and no one would like me.
All you gotta do is wait until everyone else is spoken for, and then someone gets.
Yeah, someone-
It's like musical chairs.
That's how dating's been. I'm just waiting for that one.
Oh man. So no, I guess like I loved space as a kid. You know, do you guys remember like the Scholastic school fairs and they sold those like space dehydrator things that would like dehydrate food like it would be in space? I loved all that crap. But like my thing has always been I would never want to go to a planet that's just desolate. Like if I have to just be someone who's interested in dirt. I lived in Phoenix for way too long. I'm not going to Mars, you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't go to Mars.
Mars is probably better than Phoenix.
That might be true. I'm going to Phoenix next week.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, but I would go somewhere that's like has like plant life and oxygen, and we could live, and it'd be like starting over. In
Yeah, and
terms
you
of
could go
our
stay.
progress.
You could find the new Hawaii.
I could find
You
Motel
stay
7.
there, yeah, and you can claim it for yourself.
Right. I would do that because I think that would be interesting to be like, what do we do with all this technology and intelligence on a new planet that has never seen humans before? You know, it'd be kind of like Christopher Columbus all over again, just hopefully without like mass murdering Native Americans.
Ideally. Yeah.
Like aliens that are sentient and smart and
Mhm.
non-threatening and could be peaceable. But,
Could be.
Right.
I wouldn't trust him though.
That's the difficult thing. Like that's the other difficult thing about like space ethics, right? Say we go to that planet and there's sentient aliens that are like somewhat civilized, but in our terms are like living in the Middle Ages, right? And we're like developing wormholes and using energies from stars or whatever crazy thing we're doing. Would we like conscious and like can use language and are self-aware? Would we just like reenact like the horrors of like invading the new world and just killing people because we think we're better? Or do you think we?
Sorry, is the 700 Club gonna fly their spaceship there and teach them all about Jesus? It's a South
That's
Park
gonna be the
reference.
theology question.
It's a South Park
Oh, is
reference.
it really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
As a Christian, that is an interesting question.
Would there be a new era of colonialism
Right, like,
in space?
do you think that we would make the same mistakes of just like
Probably.
mass murdering aliens that we later come to go, oh wait, you know, we should have made a peace treaty with them and learned from them and like maybe benefited them with our knowledge and not just smited them because we wanted that river or whatever.
I don't know. I've watched enough movies that's what we do.
I'm guessing
Avatar.
we probably would.
Yeah.
See the same
Starship
thing.
Troopers. That's about it.
Ender's
Game. Ender's Game.
Yeah.
As a book, don't watch the movie.
Or
There's-
never mind.
What? Don't read the book either.
No, I'm not going to explain.
Don't read the book either.
Interesting thoughts though.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I kind of think from like the opposite end, if there is sentient life out there, I tend to like the idea that that's why they haven't really reached out to us yet. 'Cause, I mean, if you look at it at an objective
They've
level,
looked at us and went, "Ugh."
like no way, like they can't get along. They still kill each other like a lot.
These guys are eating laundry detergent for a Facebook meme.
I don't think it's not like the aliens figure out world peace if there's aliens. Like, why would you assume that?
Well, I would assume that they've been around a lot longer. We're actually a relatively young species.
Why would you assume that?
Wait, hold on.
Whoa.
Are you telling me that you believe in evolution?
Oh God, I'm a Christian who believes in evolution.
What a horrendous thing that
I know, right?
definitely
What if
Those two
dinosaurs-
things cannot coincide?
What if dinosaurs are aliens, and they were supposed to grow and be this smart being, but then something happened and screwed it all up for them, and then
we
we
did.
came.
Well, they did. It's called the lizard people. Have you not heard about the lizard people?
I watched Land of the Lost.
Okay, not quite what I was thinking, but seriously, have you heard about that theory?
No.
that lizard people are running the world. It's
Yeah.
like the shadow government is
Uh-huh.
run by
Yeah.
lizard
Oh,
people.
crab people?
I've
Crab.
heard of crab people.
Same idea, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
No. Well,
Back to the aliens.
yeah.
Sorry, mine was a joke that maybe aliens are dinosaurs, but they actually got to advance and
That's why we
ours
got the
did not
pyramids,
make it.
dude. Okay. We're gonna get demonetized because YouTube's gonna think we're serious. We're not serious. We're not serious. We can't get demonetized if we're not monetized.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
like, we're not making money yet. So.
no, we're fine. Yeah.
Andrew, it seemed like you were actually going to ask a decent question.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't remember what it was now, but we're talking about aliens.
Oh, if they were sentient.
Oh, I was
why
just
would
like,
they-
why are you assuming that they figure out world peace? Why are you assuming that they've been around, like
So-
their civilization has been around longer than our civilization, I guess?
I
I don't know.
I am with you. I don't think they would. Because in order for them to, they would have
But-
to have one collective mind.
Also, why do you think that
Because
just because they've been around longer makes them more, like, civilized? Like, that they
Have
figure out
you
world
ever
peace?
heard of the Fermi paradox?
No.
No,
Is this
that's-
where you were going, Ryan?
No, I
No,
want to hear
that's
this.
Okay, so this is an interesting. It's called the Fermi paradox, and it's the same exact question. Like, why do we assume that there A would be aliens and B, like, would be sentient life, or if it is, okay, so like there's a high probability that there is, right? Because there's billions and billions of galaxies, and those galaxies have billions and billions of stars,
Oh, yeah.
billions and billions of planets. So like say there's only one other
I don't think
instance,
it's
right?
very high probability.
Okay, well, a lot of scientists are like, there's probably a high probability. So let's just run with the idea for a minute. It's a high probability.
Okay.
There's probably life out there somewhere.
Okay.
And there's probably so much life throughout the whole universe, which is so ridiculously large that we don't even know if it ends or is infinite or whatever. Who knows? I think it's, had a beginning, Big Bang Theory, but
Of course. We can talk about that in a
we
minute.
can talk about, yeah. But
God farted.
there's probably... Did you just say God farted?
Yeah.
Oh, I made something.
Oh.
That one was a
That's
little more
kind
right
of
than I
interesting.
realized. Now we have a universe to deal with. That's not how we're entering the theology
Poop
section.
particles.
Hey, Jesus, I'm going to leave this up to you.
Oh man, yeah, it is a mess. So the idea is that there's probably something out there, and then the question is, we can look at it with telescopes, and we're sending radio signals out. Why haven't we found anything yet? And there's the Fermi paradox is the basic idea, and so Ryan touched on one of them. It's that there is intelligent life that started evolving before us. It's more advanced than us, and it's looking at us and going, "Man, they are uncivilized. I'm not even going to talk to them," you know. Or we are ahead of the game. That it's really hard for life to evolve, and this seems to be kind of what you're thinking. Like, it's a really difficult thing, so there's probably not much else out there, and we're actually like the first. Somehow, we happen to be the first, and so if we found life, it'd probably either be like bacteria or like fish, you know? And then the third idea is that there is really intelligent, hyper-aggressive, predatorial life out there, and that's why there's complete silence. Because everyone else knows if you're really, really loud and they find you, they're going to come destroy your planet. And so space is silent because of that in terms of like radio signals.
But what if, you know, everybody, like, what if everybody, well, sorry, how am I saying this? What if they're just as advanced as we are?
Yeah, I don't see why.
Right, yeah, so like they're like in parallel advanced
Because
lines,
everything's going in this, I don't know how, if it's linear, I don't remember how they explain the Big Bang, but it's like, just, if everything is created at once, then who's to say they're not where we are?
It's because there's just the center of the universe.
Because they go, well, we found,
Yeah.
because we look at the telescope or whatever, they look at pictures and they found a planet that's like ours. Well, what they're seeing isn't the planet now, what they're seeing is, right? Is that how it works?
Relativity.
They're seeing it in the past, not...
That's not a bad thought.
NASA,
Now.
are you listening? We figured it out.
So technically, they
But
could
really,
be
that's a
where
good
they
thought.
could be looking at us, going, "Oh, we found a planet."
Oh, there's just a bunch of dumb apes on there hitting coconuts over their
There's
heads.
probably
Yeah.
nothing there, but it looks like ours. But what
It's
they're
like-
seeing is the past, because
like
that's how
thousands of years
stars
old or
work,
millions
right?
of years
when
old,
we see
right.
stars, we actually are just seeing.
The light. That's
The light
coming
The
from
light,
stars,
yeah. And it's like thousands to millions of years old,
Mhm.
depending on how far away the star
Unless
is.
that's not how it works. I don't know.
No, that's how
I'm
it
not a
works.
scientist.
That's how it works. No, it's like the whole
You're
relativity
right on,
thing.
bro.
So
That's like the thing where like
what
if you
we're all
traveled in
the
space a
same
lot
spot?
and you were going really fast and then you came back to Earth and it was like 50 minutes for you, it could have been like 500 years on Earth.
Planet of the Apes.
I was thinking Interstellar, but
Oh, heart crushing that movie.
yep, awesome movie.
Did you like it?
I love that movie.
Never
I'm
watched
a huge
it.
Nolan fan.
Me too.
Never saw it.
So the one with the.
Steven, how do you and I always wear the same color shirt?
Okay.
I don't know.
We did this last week too.
Yeah, we need to call each other before.
So.
You can call my mom. I'll call your wife.
Y'all are rocking
Yeah,
the
see-
grout fits. Seriously,
The what?
grout fits, gray outfits. All of you.
This is blue. Sorry. Anyways,
Yeah.
back to space.
Yeah.
So
But
you guys seem to think there's aliens, which is cool. I'm kind of like, I'd totally be down for aliens. I don't really care one way or another. I just think it'd be kind of cool if they were.
Right.
I just think.
But you're just not convinced that there are.
Not necessarily. No, not really.
I just think
Makes sense.
space is so vast that, why, like, how are we the only ones? Is my kind of thought,
Right.
and who's to say, like, I believe in God.
Wouldn't.
Who's to say God didn't also do this somewhere
Yeah.
else? Why just?
That's
us?
what I always think about too. But then, because there's the old.
I mean, we are like.
People like to say like, if there's other like intelligent life, would have it been included in, the creation story we find in Genesis in the Bible? And you're
I
like,
don't know.
There's a lot
I
of
don't
stuff that
know,
wasn't
like,
included in the
perhaps.
creation story
Yeah,
of
it's like there's a lot of stuff that's not. But see, I agree. Like, I don't know.
But it was also it's also written for us. For us.
Yeah.
In our.
Yeah.
Right.
So why couldn't
Why couldn't that also happen somewhere
God
else?
do the exact same thing?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I
Well,
agree.
it totally did. I mean, did you see Bill and Ted's Bogus
Did you see
Journey?
the one? That was a cool movie.
Well,
With Jet Li?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he
it's like
goes and
Jason
kills
Statham's
himself all
first
over?
movie.
Oh, you're thinking that one. I was
No,
thinking.
it's the same movie.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Jet Li and it's Jason Statham.
Oh.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he goes to
Go,
different
yeah, kill
universes
each other,
or galaxies.
Kill
and
yourself
they're-
to gain their power.
Yeah, so
Oh,
there
yeah,
can only,
you-
if there's only one, they're kind of scared it'll blow up, so there's two left, but they're like superhuman because they've killed all the rest of their alternate versions.
So,
Good
sounds
movie.
kooky.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like, I think, but there is another factor is our Earth is in the perfect spot. It's such a rare, like, I don't know the number, but it's such a rarity that this is even possible.
Yeah. It's like, because even
maybe
if you just
maybe
tweak
it's
it-
true somewhere else. It's just, we are just so perfect that's why we exist. And
So
maybe
it
nothing
sounds
else
like
does.
we are kind of entering our theology of space discussion.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put
Yep.
the title up.
You guys were talking about the Big Bang. I don't know what you guys were, or you were going to take that one.
Well, my thought with that, because I'm actually all for the Big Bang, that doesn't bother me at all.
Really?
And yeah, of course. I mean, first thought is that the Genesis account, you got to think about who it was written to. They wouldn't have understood the science even that we have today, let alone the science that fully explains it, which I don't think we have. So it's a metaphor. It's given to a group of people to help them understand something close to it. And I mean, scientists are continually discovering things that are like, oh wow, that actually is consistent if you look at it in this way.
Mhm.
But the biggest thought that I have is just the idea of cause and effect. If you have an effect, there has to be a cause. So that's a continual progress, and that's just an infinite loop if you think about it in that way, until you think about, well, how did that begin?
Right.
And
At some point, the question has a grand origin.
Right, an uncaused cause is kind
Well,
of a
is
weird way to
your-
think about it, but that's the big
Are
bang.
you saying, again, the Big Bang, like basically that God caused the Big Bang? What are
Yes.
you saying?
Yes, I'm exactly
That's how
saying.
God created the
Yes,
universe?
I'm saying that existence is a creation of something that is outside of existence. That there is something beyond what we can fully comprehend as, what are we, third dimensional, fourth dimensional beings? Like...
Well, third. I don't know. That's above my pay grade.
Yeah, I should, for acting.
I would agree with Ryan. I would agree with what you're saying about.
Sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
I was gonna say I agree with what your thoughts are about science. Like we know just from historical study that like the Genesis account of creation is actually a polemic against other creation narratives of the time that would set their gods up as the creators, and most of them would say that the gods had a fight.
What's a polemic?
It's like an antithetical argument, I guess. So for instance, like in Mesopotamia, like in Canaan, where the Israelites are from, the belief would have been that Baal and El and Asherah and all the other gods were just living in what they call chaos, which is the primordial waters, and they literally thought it was water and water, because water is chaos, because are you going to get on a boat and go out there? No. And they thought the gods got in a fight, and the boat crashed and land came out of it, and they built a temple there because that's where land came from, and like someone accidentally did something that created humans. So it was an accident out of gods being stupid. And so then in the creation account, we see all the characters that are normally gods in other people's belief are things that are created intentionally to be good by God. And so it's like, it's saying this is what you've heard, but this is actually how it happened. It was the creator God who is uncreated did this on purpose, and so it gives us like a positive view of creation.
Mm-hmm.
So why couldn't you just read the account in Genesis and take it as literal?
So
Some people do.
yeah, some people definitely do. And so this is the tough thing. It's like I don't think that the type of thinking they're doing is speaking to the same questions of the type of thinking we do as Westerners does. If that makes sense.
So, what's to say it didn't? Like, what's to say that what it says isn't what happened? So what, like, I guess, what to you, what is the part that doesn't line up?
Oh, I guess I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just, they're saying like God did the Big Bang. Maybe that's exactly what happened, but it lines
because
up
like,
exactly
well,
what it
no,
says in
because,
creation story in Genesis.
because what their argument would be 7 days.
Literal.
Literal.
Uh-huh.
But 7 days to us and 7 days to God could be
Might be.
completely different.
Might be different.
And
Right.
time back then, at the beginning of the Big Bang, was non-existent.
That's an interesting thought because relativity it wasn't stretched out.
Yeah, so
Okay.
time for what we experience now is not what it was
That is a good
then.
thought.
So 7 days could, but they'll
I don't
argue,
know, I
no,
guess-
it said 7 days, that's what 7 days is, but It could be 7 days to God is not what 7 days to us is.
Yeah.
And also, in that stretch, time, we created time. Time is
That's a good point.
an
too.
illusion to us.
Sure.
It's something for us to keep track of. God,
It's how we
It's-
conceptualize
well, it's-
something.
yeah,
right?
but
It's
it
how we
was
conceptualize
us.
change. It's how we conceptualize change.
and God used days and time to help us because that's what we use.
Right.
But time itself doesn't, in my opinion, does not exist for God. God is infinite, so there
He's
is no
outside
such
of it,
thing
yeah.
as
Outside
time.
of time.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't change. There's no way to track change in God
Yeah.
because he doesn't change.
Our time is based off us rotating around a ball of fire.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the main reason I don't think that we can interpret that passage through the lens that we want to as Westerners, because our entire mode of tracking time is based off the relationship of the Earth and the Sun in a 24-hour cycle, meaning how long it takes to spin on its axis, and in a yearly rotation around the Sun. Those weren't markers that existed before creation, so they're in that sense arbitrary to the discussion, I think. And so like how I think of it is, you have to understand that the lens they were thinking about this question was not the same lens we use today. And God was speaking to their lens. And Ryan kind of touched on this earlier. So the question they were asking is not how specifically did this happen in a mathematic computational way. The question they're asking is why is it here? And to that, the Genesis account is completely true. It's here because God wanted it to be. It has order because God made it so, and it works and is good because God made it good. But the questions they didn't have the understanding to ask is, oh, well, we know about physics and space and force. What order of causal reactions took place for these things to be arranged thus? You know, that's a very modern question. So when we actually read the text with that lens, we're actually using our Western bias to interpret something that wasn't even written to it. And it's actually, I think, eisegetical. It's like a bad way to read the text.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. I guess like what I'm hearing is like almost, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are almost like combining like creation story, Genesis and the Big Bang, like kind of combining it, which is really interesting. And I've heard about that before, but like for me, it's something I need to like kind of think about and maybe like I don't know, research a little bit because I grew up in a super like conservative like Christian, and it was like evolution,
Alright.
and it was like growing up you always it's taught, hey, this is how God created the earth, and like hearing about the Big Bang the way they taught it in schools was like there's no way, like for the probability of just that to happen the way that you read about in the books, you're like there's no way that could happen.
There are a couple things we're thinking about. For one, the most simple organism that they can find has something like, I don't know, 250 different strands of DNA.
Yeah, so like how does that just happen by chance?
Well,
like,
actually,
there's no way.
they actually did start to figure some things out. I could be wrong because I'm looking at research that was done from a couple of years ago, and they're constantly finding new things. But they were seeing that there's one factor that can instantly produce that much of a change.
Yeah.
It's lightning. Yeah, the introduction of an immense amount of energy into the primordial sludge, so to speak, can actually form. Yeah, well,
Just kidding.
I know. I mean, like, yeah, there's some truth in other things as well, but that can actually accelerate the process and get it to a point where there is something more advanced. And another thing that might help just the frame of reference, like one of the things that I think is important for a lot of the more conservative viewers and people engaging with this is the idea of macroevolution and microevolution.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, because one of the things.
Oh, no, sorry, keep
no,
going.
you're good.
No.
One of the things in the Genesis account is that it explains God created each creature according to its kind. You know, that it wasn't just one single-celled organism that evolved into everything. It was that God created specific different kinds of things that evolve. I mean, we can find plenty of evidence within our lifetimes of the smaller form
the
of...
micro, right? Yeah.
Right. With viruses, we're seeing it with the coronavirus
Yes.
in real time. There's a website you can look at that legitimately tracks the mutation. So it started with one strain, and now there's two major strains with thousands of minor mutations.
Right. Okay.
So microevolution through mutation is
totally
proven.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm completely on board.
And so I think the problem too is, and this was interesting about this discussion, because evolution came on board with Darwin, and Darwin's idea was purely mutation and adaptation. it was lucky mutations that allowed you to survive. Now, at least as far as I've researched, again, not an expert. Ooh, not an expert. I've read studies that they think that evolution is actually more intentional from the species in an unconscious way, where they think that DNA and RNA in our cells have some way of being informed about our situations and adapting. And again, who knows how that works, but that would support the idea that theistic evolution has often touted, that God is leading it somehow, you know? And what's interesting about that is like when the Big Bang was theorized, all of the modernists who wanted to throw God away were terrified of that idea, because an uncaused cause with a definite beginning is called God. And so like there are accounts of physicists looking into that are going, this is the way the universe definitely started according to math, going, we climbed all the rocks of science and got to the top of the mountain only to find theologians that are waiting for us. So the Big Bang for a lot of people is actually a scary question. And so you see a lot of physicists pushing back and going, oh, it's just the creation of our universe, and there's multiple universes, you know, there's thousands and hundreds of millions of them, so the Big Bang isn't God, it's a universe generator. And I'm like, oh, okay, what do you call a universe generator, you know? Yeah. Even if there's billions and trillions of universes, you're just pushing the question back another step.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I think that's why, like, it's one of those things where the thing that the Bible is speaking to is not what science is looking for. And science is looking for the explanation of events within the confines of our universe, and theology is by definition looking outside of that universe for an ultimate meaning as it acts within it. And so, yeah, for me those things are totally compatible. And like I believe everything in Genesis 1 is completely true. I just don't think it's literal in the way we want it to be as Westerners. Is it literal in what the Eastern ancient mindset wanted from it? Yes. God created this distinctly with a purpose and a design and intention, and it was good.
Right.
And that, yeah, so that part's all true.
Yeah.
And it goes back to your chance.
Yeah.
You know, well, if you think about it with God, it's not really chance.
Right.
Where, yeah, it kind of takes that probability away. Like it's
intelligent design, as they
Yeah.
call it. Yeah.
But so I used to tell my, I don't remember who, someone, it was we all believe the same thing, it's just told different.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I mean there have been a lot of different ways that people come about this. One of the things that I actually end up pointing to a lot is the idea of why moths are drawn to light. Some of you may have heard me talk about those things. I actually love them, and it's mostly because of this thought.
Okay.
It's because I actually identify with moths.
Quotable phrases of the
Are
night.
you a moth?
Yep, yeah.
You're the Mothman.
I am, yeah. No, moths are drawn to light because they're actually trying to find the moon. They use light as a tool to navigate. They're constantly drawn to it because they
I
need
put your
something
quote up on
like
the screen,
that.
by the way. I identify
Why-
with moths.
Thank you.
Why are they finding? Why do they want to go to the moon?
It's because they need a source of light to navigate,
Okay.
and they get confused by the light that we create. Like even take a candle, for instance. If they're continually flying toward it, they get close to it, and then the trajectory shifts, and then they're constantly moving around that one thing. They're looking for something that can help them be drawn to it. They need the moon because it's distant. No matter where they move, it's always in the same spot, according to them, because they don't end up going that far. So, in that similar way, humans are all drawn to the same things. We find evidence of things that look like one another. We're drawn to those things. It's like, if you look at pretty much every religion, you can find something that's worth learning. You can find some truth that's worth engaging in. Like, I love the Bhagavad Gita, and I love the Buddhist perception of suffering. They're both wonderful things. By themselves, they're great, but they're not perfect. They're in complete representation of a perfect thing.
So this goes back to like Romans 1, when Paul says like what was revealed to them has been made clear by God's power, divine nature, and eternal power.
Exactly.
But it's not a complete revelation. So it's like this idea that we need what's revealed naturally, but there's also an aspect in which divine revelation, God has to self-reveal in a unique way. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. I mean, like, that was most of what I was saying, actually, is just that it's worth engaging with these other ideas, these other worldviews, because there is truth to be found in it. We're all given similar mechanisms to discern and find and discover truth. That being said, a lot of the light that we're drawn to is man-made. It's something closer to us. So it's not actually a perfect thing to navigate well in this world. We need something distant that we could not have created, that is far enough away that no matter where we move, we don't get confused because we get close to it and we're like, oh, well, that's not perfect. Maybe I'll go over here. No, it's still there. Okay. It's not something we can touch.
Yeah. I like it.
Oh man, I love what you just said because so I think a lot of times we think of exclusivity the wrong way as Christians. Like truth is exclusive. If you're a Buddhist, you're going to hell and you don't know anything. The early
all
church.
All dumb people are redneck.
That's because I'm redneck. I mean, like, yeah, dude, we're all pretty much.
I mean, like, I don't want to speak for the group, but I know I've got some red on my neck.
We're all a little bit red. I mean, if you look at this shot right here, we all.
Really?
I did the color correction wrong, and all of our skin is a little bit more red than it should be. So,
Steven, I thought you were better.
And the other thing is, since I identify as slightly redneck, I don't want to do another accent and call them stupid and get demonetized for it. So, anyways, I'll continue that thought. It's okay. A lot of times as Christians, I think we think exclusivity is something to build walls based on. And we view it as a challenge, which shows that we're actually insecure in our own faith. And so, like, this is where, so I started reading the early church a lot the past couple of years, and Ryan's like, oh, here we go, another early church tirade from Drew. But I'm going to go on it because I think it's important. In the early church, they used a word to describe the Christian faith. I'm going to say it, and they're going to get mad, but I'm going to say it, and it was Catholic. And the word Catholic in Latin means universal. Okay? This is a universal, singular church of God by which all men must be saved, is what the Father said. This is the one true deliverance of divine revelation for all mankind, for men, women, Jews, Greeks, barbarians, slaves free, princes, emperors, and the lowly. This is it. And so when they looked at all of Revelation and other religions, they found the truth like Paul did and said, this unknown God that you sacrifice to, let me tell you about him. And they didn't do that as like a cheap evangelistic trick. They really valued the truth. And so, like, Justin Martyr actually theorized that people like Plato and Socrates were probably saved because they were pursuing wisdom in its natural form to its fullest extent to the point of martyrdom. And so they look a lot like the Christian martyrs who, when they're given the fullness of truth, were martyred for it. And so, like, the approach was kind of like what Ryan is saying, where it's not like, oh, their religion is different than ours, you know, we should just argue with them. It was praise what is true and then show them the fullness in grace and truth, you know?
That's definitely an interesting thought. I think that could be an entire discussion in and of itself. Because there's a lot of complexity with that, and I'm sure
Probably.
I'm sure that's something that a lot of people will interact with and be pissed off about. They're not going to be happy with that.
Sergio is here, and he might not be here anymore, I don't know. But he says, can we discuss the absence of Steven's beard? And he says, like, how does one shave his beard and look older?
Wow.
That's not even true.
Sergio, I hope you're still here because that is amazing. Can we just say for a moment, Sergio is the only person who has watched pretty much most of both episodes. And in the first podcast, in the first podcast, he actually roasted Ryan, and I wasn't looking at the comments, so I couldn't bring it up.
What did he say? Oh,
he said he disagrees with you on something, and then like challenged you, and then said something snarky.
I have something fun to say.
Okay, what is it?
It's Saturday night. Why are you at home, loser?
Oh! If we get demonetized.
Oh!
Sergio,
beard.
Well, Sergio, we love you. We wish you were here.
Yeah,
Sergio, the next time you visit Montrose, you will be sitting right here in the center of this circle.
yes.
And we will rest our drinks
Yeah.
on your head.
I want to know what you're roasting me about.
I know. You can go back and look at the live
Challenge
comments on
accepted.
Facebook.
Never
He
distracted.
says hi, #1
How much
fan.
time's left?
Yay.
We're already at an hour, so we're already over.
Oh.
That's okay. We don't have a time frame,
But-
guys.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've all got more
Thought it was
time
an
now
hour.
given the current circumstances of the world, so, you know, might as well.
What?
#1 fan.
#1 fan. Here, you know what, Sergio? I'm gonna put it up there.
Sergio, number one fan.
I was just so we don't go too long. So my question. So let's go back to space a little bit with the theology question.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens if we do come across intelligent life and?
Well, obviously, the
With-
human race is the chosen species. and
Well, no,
everyone
I
needs to
mean
be
in a
exterminated.
theological sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question,
Exactly.
though.
No, what do we?
No, we are the superior species, and everything else needs to be exterminated. From a theological sense, they are not human.
Okay, James,
they are
come on.
not.
Wait, no. So I'm gonna agree with what half of Ryan said.
Oh, I'm completely kidding, but
But no-
I'm glad you agree with half of it.
Okay, so the half of it you said is the chosen species,
Okay.
not the extermination point. So, because like the church is Gentile and Jew grafted into a new Israel,
Sure.
right? Grafted in. I'm using biblical language so as not to get into the debate of how that all works, because that's a messy one.
Okay.
But we're grafted. We're one family of God. The wall that separates us has been abolished, according to Paul in Ephesians. We are the chosen royal priesthood of God.
Mhm.
Would it not then be our mission to show who God is to these people?
I would say yes.
I would say yes.
Absolutely.
I would like if I got the opportunity, I would like to just hear what they believe.
What if they're like, oh, we gotta tell you about a story. There was this guy named Jesus, because they have some weird alien song, Jesus, and he died on a curse, and we believe in him, and this and that, and they're like the
You
same.
sound like a redneck.
That would be interesting.
See, my aliens sound like rednecks, and they're smart.
Yeah.
Come on.
And who's because if there are aliens, they're automatically smart. Yeah, we established this.
Yeah, so
No.
we've established it. But yeah, no, it's like what? So what do you do? Like, I mean,
Well,
I would love to. If I ever got the chance, I would love to know what they believe. And then back to
That's
the
actually
treat
great.
them like any other
But yeah, treat them like
foreign.
I would completely agree.
Just treat them, yeah.
I would
as we're
completely
supposed to.
agree. And especially from a missionary standpoint, that was one of the best bits of advice I ever got, like going into a mission field, was you should learn who they are. You should learn about their culture. You should care about who they are first. And we find examples of that in scripture. Like Drew mentioned, Paul with the Roman church, he knew about them and he looked at what they were worshiping, the unknown God. And he used that as a tool to say, hey, guys, I know who this God is. And he's actually way bigger than the other ones you've been worshiping. Like, it's useful to pay attention. So it's awesome that you want to know. Like, far beyond even just basic curiosity, it's useful. Like, I've always loved the idea of first seek to understand and then be understood.
Yeah.
The guy told me that in college, and it's just stuck with me ever since.
It's kind of going back to something we had said earlier. We all assume that aliens are smarter and they're peaceful. Well,
I'd say peaceful.
not peaceful, but like they're in their culture, in their society, they would all be
They're somehow like more developed.
more
Yeah.
developed.
Okay.
But so that, and what I wanted to say is that would mean that they have one collective conscience, because
Maybe.
Possible.
because the problem with us is it only takes one to have a different opinion.
Yeah.
To ruin everything for everybody
Yeah.
else.
Well, this
So-
goes to the question of how do you have unity amidst diversity.
Well, and
you
that's
know?
what I'm saying. But like, we all assume that they're this advanced piece, but they're like, if they don't have one collective
Are
thought,
they in like hive mind?
yeah, if they can't do that, then there will be one that disagrees and is trying.
Sergio
to
once on the
take over.
podcast, guys. I asked him if he said you got to get him on here soon, and he said thumbs up.
No.
Nice.
Serge, we got to get you. We got to get you in here. And you can have a normal seat too. You don't have
But
to.
is that like because
So
there's always going to be
we're
one
saying-
thing or person or being that will go against what everybody else is going
Well,
against. So it's like,
maybe.
well, unless they have a common collective.
Unless, like
thought.
Paul says in Corinthians, you should be of one mind and one spirit. And
Well, I
one
know,
love.
but
Wait.
are we gonna? I thought that's only capable if in heaven.
I mean, like, part of it is, I really like the idea of unity and diversity, and I feel like that's kind of the genesis of,
You don't want
you know,
beer?
scholarly,
I'm good.
you know, furthered mindset is the pursuit of unity and diversity.
I'm gonna press the buttons.
But You know, I that's one of the fallacies I think we've bought into as a culture is that we have to all agree to be able to find unity. It's like, no. What we need for unity is a common direction. The ways we go about that can be different. And it's the idea that I always laugh at that idea that there are either absolutes or no absolutes. It's like, well, no, there are a few absolutes. Very few. But beyond that, there are a lot of ways to go about this interacting with reality as we know it. So, diversity can be very different. Like, a species can have a common goal and disagree about how to find that goal or what things are important to each person, each individual.
Well, that's the problem.
Why is that?
Because we all have the same goal, but we have different ways of getting to that goal, and those are where the conflicts hit.
Andrew,
What's
how
our
many
goal?
Mexican lobbies
That's
did
what
you
I'm
drink?
talking about.
No,
Six pack.
you mentioned...
Like, okay, so
Where's it at?
Catholic,
In the fridge.
not
Kind of.
Catholic. Well, kind of Catholic. Not Catholic. Mormon.
Wait, now I'm interested
Did
in
you
what
just
you're
say
saying.
Andrew was more...
No, sorry, that wasn't a point at you. That was a generalization.
Now I'm curious. Wait, I come up here because I'm trying to find the
We're the
beer, and he
same?
says something about someone being Catholic.
Yeah, you.
Oh yeah.
Well,
So,
kind of.
well,
Well,
okay,
kind of.
so
Anglo-Catholic.
so now let's
Anglo-Catholic.
so we look at this. So he's Catholic. We're not Catholic. Then there's Mormon.
Anglo-Catholic. Currently.
And then
Developing situations.
okay, I can't say
Yeah,
it.
I just
Catholic and that Catholic maybe have some butting heads, and then there's going to be disagreements, and then now salvation is different.
Not necessarily.
But to some,
Yes,
Mormons,
yes,
to
Well,
Mormons,
to
it's
Mormons,
different.
Are you saying that
Uh,
Catholics are Mormon right now?
No, I'm just saying
Bro,
I'm just saying
mistake.
there's a. Oh, let's go.
It's
there.
gonna be a brawl, like...
No, I'm just saying there's so many different thoughts of salvation
Yes.
from different. So okay, now we all disagree.
okay,
We all have the same idea how to get there
okay.
in our group.
Steven, I disagree with you ipso facto. I hate you. You're wrong. My belief is challenged. I am lesser of a person. Therefore, we cannot be friends.
Welcome to Earth.
Well,
But I think
That's
what
the
he's
fallacy.
saying is why
No, but my thing.
can't like
No, what I'm saying is, how can you have a common goal if everybody's idea of how to get there is different?
well
You can have
The
that
goal's
common.
still the same.
The goal's still the same, but no one's going to be on the same page of how to get there. Now you can take it to something else. Take it to the Earth. We got to make sure the Earth. Yes, yeah. The Earth. You got to take care of the Earth. Well, how do you do that? Well, we want to do it this way. Well, we want to do it this way. Who's right? And no one's going to agree on who's right. The others are going to say you're wrong.
But-
So yeah, you're right. But that's my point is if you can all have the same goal, and I feel like everyone has the same goal. It comes back to the Big Bang. We all think the same thing. We just have a different idea of what it is.
Well-
And that's where the fight is.
well I think like salvation, what you're talking about like is like one of those absolute truths. Like there has to be
But there's different ways to it.
like
depends on
people
what you
say that, but
Well-
that doesn't mean they're right.
I guess Drew.
What?
Sorry, I'll wait till you're back. Well,
I'm
if-
just fixing this
You can
camera.
say
would
whatever
a
you
Catholic
want, but-
think I am saved if I was not baptized?
I can give you the answer to that from the catechism.
Were you
Maybe.
not baptized?
No, I wasn't baptized, but I wasn't baptized through the Catholic.
You weren't
Church.
baptized as a Roman, so like Roman Catholic is what you're asking.
Yeah, so there's somewhere if you're not done,
Right.
if it's not done this way. If you can't come to my church and take communion
Right.
if you don't believe what we believe.
They actually have a really sophisticated answer about this. This is actually really close to what Ryan and I were talking about earlier. The idea of truth being found in a multiplicity of places, but not being relative. And so there's a document in Vatican II, which was an ecumenical council according to the Roman Catholic Church. They promulgated in the 60s, and that's a bunch of... They got together and said, this is what we believe about stuff, everyone has to agree with us, it's Catholic, this is doctrine, right? And in that, they said, there's this document called Lumen Gentium, the light of the people, talking about how the universal Catholic Church, which happens to be centered in Rome, relates to other Christian denominations. And in it, they said something which some had believed and some had not believed before, and they defined that people who are baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are brothers. They just don't know what they would say is the fullness of truth. And so what they would say is they can't speak with certainty on the salvation of those people. But they probably, like, they're closer than someone who's completely atheist. But then they even go so far as to say that the Spirit moves to and fro where the wind goes. How do we know that this man on an island wasn't somehow visited by God and pursued what he knew to be true or was revealed to the fullest extent that he possibly could? And isn't God merciful? Wouldn't he honor that? And so they have this idea of anonymous Christianity, that the guy on the island, and everyone's like, well, Calvinism, Arminianism, he couldn't have known missions. They go, God is merciful. Would he not give that man an opportunity to know him in the best way that he possibly could? They even go so far as to say Christians, through bad witness and like really bad obedience, can stain a false idea of what the gospel is, and that could even grant a sort of naivety to someone's understanding of Jesus. Where if they worship what they think God to be to its fullest, and we've stained their ability because of our witness to actually become Christian, then that could even be granted as an act of mercy. So it's a really nuanced view. Anyways.
Okay, take it a little further. Atheist, Christian. They both want peace.
Depends on the atheist, but
Depends
yes.
on the
Humoring.
Well, you would
And the Christian.
humoring it.
And
you
the
would
Christian.
Hope like I was atheist.
Depends
I
on
wanted
the
peace.
Christian.
Yeah, it depends on the Christian, but like now you have two. You have one that believes in God, and you have one that doesn't believe in God, and they both want the same thing, but they have two different ways of handling it. I'm just my point is there's a fight. Always.
There's tension.
There's
but
tension.
I think
And
that
we're human and we don't know how to handle it properly.
not perfectly. I wouldn't say properly. I think we can find tenuous treaties, and we can, I guess, look toward the utmost, which would be progress, the commonality, the common ground, which would be progression toward peace. So the presence of disagreement doesn't necessarily mean that we won't move forward, that we won't find progress in what we're doing. We just won't perfectly be able to. And I think part of that is that if you look at the human race, we're actually a relatively young species. We just are. I mean, a couple thousand years. In the grand scheme of things, like, if it's all as grand as a lot of people hypothesize, humans are pretty young. And that's why I tend to like the idea that aliens have had more opportunity to do that. If we've had, a little over 10,000 years to evolve? Something like that? I don't know what the grander spectrum is.
You mean into like our current moment of Homo
right,
sapien,
where we are, right.
where we're writing things and inventing tools, yeah.
Exactly. What could a species accomplish if they were given 100,000 years?
To be from the level that, like, you invented tools.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, and part of it is that we, as a species, are so driven by emotional connection.
Which is a good thing.
It is a good thing. It helps us understand reality, but our problem is that we have used emotion as a fabricator of reality rather than a framer of reality, which is what it's supposed to be. If we can move past that, suddenly we don't have to feel like lesser of an individual, less worthy, less valuable, because somebody disagrees with us. We can move forward even with that. We can find actually a lot of value in you disagreeing with me, you disagreeing with me, you disagreeing with me, and all of those possibilities coming together. We can actually provide a lot of diversity to one another's lives. It's the idea, if you have a good idea, and I have a good idea, by ourselves we just have one good idea. But if we come together and share those ideas, we've each got two.
So wait, sorry, I don't know if we actually answered this earlier, but explain to me again, I guess if you did before, why we, I guess maybe assume that if there's aliens, why have they been around longer than we have?
Well, it's the idea that maybe they happened upon different landmarks in their progression as a species that help them to accelerate faster.
Someone, damn it, sorry. I was listening to Joe Rogan, and
Dangerous.
and the person he had on, I don't remember who it was, and they were talking about this like they were more advanced. They would come here and look at us and go, "Wow, look at those primitive people using fossil fuels and this and that." And the guy goes, "What if they came here and said, wow, wait, they're using fossil fuels to do that? We didn't know you could do that. The way we did it was this way, but they never knew they could do it that way." So
yeah, it's so different.
we could look at them and go, "Wow, that is so advanced. We want that," and they could look at us and go, "Wow, we didn't even think of that."
Right.
And like we're looking at it as, "Oh, they're better than us." But they could be looking at it.
Is that the one with the guy, the Air Force pilot or something?
I don't know. It was long ago, but it was just interesting to be like, "Wow, we're getting so caught up in." Well, they have advanced technology, but they could be looking at us going, "Wow, I didn't even know you could do that."
Like they did.
They had something else,
right?
And we have this, and they had, and now we can, like you said, we have one idea, they have one idea, now we have two.
Well, it's another one of those funny ideas. One of the things I love about Rick and Morty is that episode of Get Swifty. What if humans really are the best at music? What if we are
and something
far
that
and
bad
superior?
wins the show?
Yeah, but seriously, like because we have
Get
Swifty.
All right.
But like seriously, what if humans are that much better? Like you really don't know. We add different things of value to one another, and from a interspecies standpoint, that's a great idea. What if a different species is like, wow, you're good at that? We had no idea that was possible.
You guys painted Van Gogh's Starry, Starry Night. That's the most brilliant thing we've ever seen. We didn't think art was cool until now.
Well, what was... I'm trying to think of...
Figures.
I was trying to think of... well, it's like when they brought firearms over here and they were using spears. It's like, what?
Pretty similar.
But they were really good with spears.
But they were really good.
And they got really good at riding horses.
But it was just like,
Really
wow,
good.
you're riding horses? We didn't know you could tame the wild animal. And obviously, they didn't have what they had, like buffalo. Oh, I'm going to ride a buffalo.
And we killed all the buffalo.
But it's just like, because they didn't have horses. The Native Americans.
Right.
Horses were introduced to them.
Yeah.
So, but it's just like, oh wow, you can tame animals? Oh wow, you use, just different ways of, oh, your medicine is that?
Like the best of it was mutual, even though most of it was not that way.
But
I think
just
it's interesting.
things like that. Well,
So-
sorry.
No, you're good. No.
I was just going to say, what if they're just us?
Right, it's just like different knowledge.
What if they're just humans?
Just parallel universe.
Not parallel. No, what if they're just like us?
I really like that idea that we're kind of talking about and you kind of brought up, because I think this speaks to our current cultural moment in a way too. Right now, there's like this battle, and I say battle because it's just kind of, I don't know, weird in my opinion, between people who want objective truth to be a real thing that we think still, and people who think it's just not that way. That there's not truth, there's only a discussion of culture and power, and it's relative to you, right? But I think there's truth to both, and what I mean is this: there is true objective reality, independent of whatever crazy thing you think of, and you know it when you run into it because you were wrong. But we all are limited in our ability to comprehend that, right? I'm not omniscient. I don't know everything about everything, and so our relationship to objective reality is relative to our experience of it. And so that's the tension that we kind of have to live between, I think, as humans, right? Is that we have real, honest-to-God existence that has a ground and a root, and yes, let's call it God. Let's go with Thomas Aquinas and call it the unmoved mover. But our relative experience of it determines how we talk about it. And some people have a really poorly cultivated relative experience, and others we'd say have a better cultivated relative experience, but no one has the whole biscuit. So at least that's how I think about it, because, and that goes to even why different traditions speak about God differently, but they might mean the same thing. They just speak different languages, and they've seen different things And we only have, like, think about it. You only have, like, 40 years as a human being to, like, really make up your mind about something. After that, you probably don't get to change it. Like, you're kind of stuck in your ways. So take that 40 years and go all the way back to Jesus or all the way back to the beginning of time. And, like, how much of that 40 years were you set on just trying to eat, you know? You didn't get to really think about these things or have deep discussions that today we get to have more because we're not trying to just, like, not starve to death, you know? So, I don't know. That's kind of my long-winded take on things.
That's a good take. No, I do like that idea that we've all got a finite amount of experience to deal with this common truth. And therefore we tend to fixate on different things and we tend to interpret different things. So it creates a disparity in how we interact with reality. Huh?
What? Sorry.
What?
It's one footsie with them.
I'm on the wide angle. We can see it. Oh. Demonetized. Cool.
So, any final thoughts, I guess?
I don't know. I'm pretty much tapped out.
I might have had one, but I forgot it.
Honestly got lost. I was like, what we're talking about anymore.
We got really deep there.
We did. A lot of the things that I was not expecting.
I was thinking we were going to think about like weird alien theology stuff, and we kind of just got to like really core, important theological questions, which is kind of cool in that sense. But yeah, I didn't get to share.
We didn't talk about sports.
We're not talking about sports.
Oh my god.
It'll happen.
I know everyone's like, oh, this podcast is called Guydeas. Why are you not talking about sports? Ryan and I, we don't care about sports, but these two
Not
really
much.
care about sports. So we'll have to like, you know what we should do? We should give them an episode where we just like walk out for 15 minutes and let them talk about it.
Let them just go ham.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe if our viewership increases.
If we talk about fight sports, I could get into it a little bit more. Like,
See, I still just.
are you kidding me?
No. I've never been a fan.
I don't
Like
know.
you talking like UFC, what? Boxing,
Both.
everything.
Yeah, everything.
See, I feel like, and this is a new thing, I'm starting to kind of really like the idea of fly fishing. We've gone a couple times and we have our stuff. So we start talking about that. That might be interesting for me,
It's
but I
not
don't
a
know
sport.
anything. That's a sport.
Fishing is the most dangerous sport.
That's true.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
No, seriously, like rivers kill you and stuff, but we're like, oh, it's so peaceful and zen.
Yeah.
It's like kills you.
Yeah, it by far has the most number of deaths for sport.
I don't think of it as a sport.
Because you're in a river.
It's a sport.
You're in a river
Or-
that can suck you away and kill you and hit
The
you with
number
rocks.
of people dying doesn't qualify as a sport.
What? Okay.
What?
What qualifies as a sport?
Well, I don't know. There's like usually.
That's a very deep, different
Okay, like,
philosophical question.
Dude,
Dude,
I
okay.
think of fly fishing. I'm out there like on a river by myself. I'm not
It's a sport.
competing against like other.
If they sell the
People.
gear in Sportsman's Warehouse, it's a sport.
Whoa.
I was gonna say something bad there, but I am not gonna say
Oh
it.
yeah. You have to tell us after.
Yeah.
Because I was saying, okay, so here's my thought. If the general consensus of people is accepting esports as sports more and more, then fly fishing
No.
definitely is a sport.
Well, I'm
I don't count
also
those
not
as sports
accepting
either.
that as a sport. So there.
Alright, so Andrew doesn't think fly fishing is a sport. We try to talk about aliens.
Entertainment, yes.
Does anyone have final thoughts?
Fly fishing.
Well, in video games.
Does anyone
Beyond
have
that.
Does anyone have final thoughts about aliens or space ethics or space or God or thoughts or
I think it's cool. I think it's pretty important that like, you know, we're trying to like revamp space exploration.
Right.
It seems like there's been a dead period. I think you know, with the SpaceX thing, with the Space Force thing, I think that's all great. It'll be interesting to see what happens, I guess.
The state of Mars will be nice.
It's really interesting.
the state, the 51st state, the whole planet of Mars.
Thought
It's
it was
ours.
gonna be America,
You
just
thought
gonna be
Texas
Mars.
was big. Oh boy.
I thought Alaska was big.
Alaska isn't as big as Texas though.
Yes, it is.
No, Texas is bigger than the entire United States because it's Texas.
Yeah, everything's bigger than
Because it's
Texas,
Texas.
including Texas.
If you put Texas on the map and put it next to all other 49 states combined times 10, Texas is bigger.
It has more people.
Alright. This is getting a little
we're
wild. Yeah. Oh man.
It's been fun though.
It has been fun.
Yeah, this is good.
Guys, thank you for watching another episode of Guydeas. let me start to fade the music in here just a little bit.
And
We're gonna let you know what we're doing.
We're gonna let you know what we're doing.
And
We were trying to do this thing on Wednesdays, but I'm gonna be gone for like 2 Wednesdays in a row. So we did this one on a Saturday. You're welcome. And I don't know when the next one will happen, but we'll try to make it happen. And then after that should be Wednesdays. But with that, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And love you guys. See you next time.